Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dan, and I have a very special guest with me today. He is one of my mentors, and I can truly say, meeting him has truly changed my business life, and my business career. He has worked for Tony Robbins, and I would say one of the best sales trainer in the world. And his goal is to be the leading sales trainer for his generation, and I believe he's on his way there. He's been a sales trainer for nearly 20 years now and has studied under the likes of Tony Robbins, Dr. Donald Moyne, and of course, Tony Robbins and Jay Abraham. So today I'd like to welcome to the show, Mr. Eric Lofholm.
Dan, I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you as well. And when you set out a goal, I think it was late last year to do. I think it was at that time 500 speeches. Um, I wanted to reach out to you and see if I can be part of you helping you get there. And I think now you've updated your goal to 1,000 speeches for 2020. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's a great tip for everybody to set a goal that inspires you. So we've all probably set lots of goals in our life, but not every goal inspires us. So I set a goal in December to go out and do all these speeches, and I was able to achieve it. And here we are today. So I'm excited to be here and share some great ideas with your audience.
Yes, I'm very, very excited to have you as well. And kind of speaking of goals, one of the things I set out just earlier this year was to try to get 100 Google reviews. And I know you might talk a little bit about goals later, but there's something to be said about setting the intention, and then that intention leading the way to the actions that help you get that goal. So I started around 20. I'm at 50 reviews right now, and my goal is to have 100 Google reviews by January 1st, 2021.
Fantastic. Now, is it just a goal that's written down, or do you also have a strategy of how you're doing it? Or are you just kind of a law of attraction? How are you
It's a
getting
little
to
bit of
that?
both. I did write it down. I
Okay.
did set the date, like I said, and then I do have a system. And so obviously for my past clients, I've had to go back to my past clients and warm them up a little bit. But
Yeah.
they've been happy to do it, and it's really paying off right now.
Fantastic. Great job.
Yes. So, I met you, I want to say around 2007. I went to a seminar, and the person who was presenting the seminar, hey, you got to check out this guy, Eric Lofholm. And at that time, there's a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Hmm.
And right at that realization, I was a business owner, but I was an attorney. And so but I didn't realize, or I was just on the cusp of realize I need to learn sales, and I need to find someone who can teach me how to sell. But before we kind of get all that, can you share a little bit about your background, how you got into sales training, and where you at today?
Sure. Well, I drifted into sales. I don't know that anybody like back in high school or their college, like, yes, I want to go into sales and work for commission only, right?
All right.
So I went and worked for a real estate investor, a multi-millionaire real estate investor. And I went there to learn real estate investing in my early 20s. And he offered me a sales job. So I did the sales job to be mentored by this real estate investor. And I was terrible at it. At the end of my first year, I missed the quota 2 months in a row. And I was told I had one more month to hit my quota or I'd be let go. So I got interested in learning sales to keep my job. And that's when I met my sales mentor, Dr. Donald Moyne. And he taught me his system. And within 60 days of learning his system, not only did I hit quota, but I became the top producer at that company. And part of my natural gifting is teaching. I love teaching. And so I took what my mentor taught me and I started teaching it to my coworkers. And many of the people I shared it with saw increases in their results. And then I went on to work for Tony Robbins. I was with Tony for 3 years. And I started my sales training company in 1999. So since 1999, I've been helping people all over the world, including yourself, to learn the art and science of selling.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now I know, we are kind of in the midst of coronavirus, and you've been in business long enough, and as successful everyone sees, someone like you. Can you share a little bit about kind of some of the rough patches you've had to go through with your sales training company?
Yeah, as we pursue success in life, there's duality. So there's with up, there's down, with on, there's off, and with success, there's struggle. And so if any of you are going through struggles or if you've been through them, it is a part of the process. And one of the major struggles I had was back in 2003, and I'd built up my company. I had 20 people working for me, and I had something that happens, which is kind of common in business. One of my trainers wanted to branch off and start their own training company. And so he did that, except that he decided to recruit away my core talent. And so all of a sudden, I went from a staff of 20 to a staff of 1. And that happened within 30 days. That's how quick it was. And so my business went on life support. So I went from just doing great, cash flow's great, we're humming along, to barely surviving. And so that was one of the major challenges I had. And then, of course, in 2008 and 2009, when the global economy shifted, my company revenues dropped 70% almost overnight. And so I went through the pain of that. And then during that time, my seminar business kind of dropped off the face of the earth, and I had to pivot to online training. So like what we're doing here, we're communicating through technology. Well, back then, everything I did was in person. And there's a lot of companies that are going through that right now with the coronavirus, where they're being forced to go virtual. They're not used to that. Well, that happened to me back in 2008 and 2009, and I got through that as well. So many other bumps and bruises along the way. And it has been very challenging, but very character building as we go through those challenges.
Of course. And diamonds are made out of, pressure, right? And it is through those pressures and challenges that get us where we are. And today you've spoken, hundreds, if not thousands of stages with some of the, foremost business leaders. You've trained probably hundreds of thousands of people over your lifetime. And, today I just want to talk about maybe just 3 of your top sales tips, if you can share with my audience, that you've taught and shared with your students over the past 20 years.
Absolutely. Well, I'll share with you one of my all-time favorite ideas. All 3 of these are amongst my favorites. I call it the POI strategy. And POI is an acronym that stands for person of influence, and it's a pivot in thinking. And so in sales, we're taught, give me a lead, and I will then go and sell to that lead. And in POI, we're leveraging networks. So instead of looking for a lead of somebody to sell to, we look for a network with our target market. And it's a great strategy. And a quick example that everyone can probably relate with is Starbucks. And Starbucks went to Barnes & Noble, and they did a joint venture with them to put a Starbucks inside of one Barnes & Noble to test it out and make sure that the strategy worked. And it worked so well, they rolled it out into 500 Barnes & Nobles. So Starbucks looked for a network that had its target market. In this case, it was Barnes & Noble. They did the same strategy with Target, with grocery stores, with hotels, airports, etc. So look for a network where you can find your target market. That's idea number 1. Idea number 2 is Sales Mountain. And Sales Mountain is a process on how to deliver an effective sales presentation. And so I'll just go through it very quickly. It's a metaphor of climbing a mountain, and you're a mountain climbing guide as the sales professional, and you're going to lead and guide your prospect up the sales mountain to a point where they're ready to make a buying decision. So it starts with lead generation, and then it's appointment setting, and then trust and rapport, identify customer needs, share the benefits, close, objection handling, and follow-up. And we could go on for a whole day on that one.
Right.
But what it means is, to keep it super simple, think of the sales presentation as a chain, and a chain is as strong as its weakest link. So we work on each link in the chain, and we get better at it. We get better at trust and rapport. It makes the overall persuasiveness of the presentation more effective. We get better at closing. It makes the overall persuasiveness of the presentation to become more effective. And so it's looking at selling from a scientific standpoint. And so I'm all about preparation and going into your sales presentation with a plan. And then the third idea is continuous sales improvement. And you shared some of the things that I've accomplished in my career with the, hundreds of thousands of people that I've trained and thousands of speeches that I've delivered. And what has got me to where I am now, I just recently turned 50, and I still have a multi-decade career in front of me. So what got me to this point, and then what will get me beyond, I call it continuous sales improvement. And it's a mindset. And the mindset is you've never arrived. Become a lifelong learner. And what I teach any profession, anybody that's a professional like yourself, work on your sales skills 15 minutes to an hour a week, every week for the rest of your life. Work on your sales skills, work on your personal development, and work on your product knowledge. And so what ends up happening is we have these micro improvements where we get just a little bit better. So like today I had a micro improvement. Today I tried out a product called StreamYard. It's a technology, and it's becoming more popular. And it allows you to do a live stream on multiple platforms at the same time. Mm-hmm. So today I streamed on Facebook, on 2 different Facebook pages, and Twitter. And so I was up on all 3 channels at the same time, and then it records it. So I got a little bit better today at StreamYard. Now, that isn't necessarily going to create a breakthrough for me, but the micro improvements all added up create the breakthrough. So I teach, we learn, and then we have a breakthrough. And so if you make your sales training, your personal development, your technology training, your product knowledge, be a lifelong learner. And so that's what I've chosen to do. And I think that's what you've chosen to do as well.
Right. A book I read recently was called Atomic Habits, which is exactly what you're talking about. It's just these little things that we do every day on a consistent basis will get us closer to, the overall improvement in our business practices. And, you talk about consistent, continuous sales improvement. One of the things that I learned from you and from you that you learned from Tony Robbins was, the concept of Kaizen or Kanai, right? Continuous and never ending improvement.
That's right.
Right.
And that's where I got my version, CSI, continuous sales improvement. It came from Tony Robbins, who got it from Kaizen, and that's also from W. Edwards Deming. And Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins' mentor, taught us work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And there are people like you and I and Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins. Jim Rohn, of course, has passed away, but Tony's still alive, where we live with that philosophy. And I love inspiring new people to that philosophy, because all these little improvements, they all add up. And then all of a sudden you have this breakthrough. It's like, well, how did the breakthrough happen? Bunch of micro improvements, like somebody who is watching your podcast, they could pick up 1 or 2 ideas from this podcast. Then they come back and listen to another one of your great speakers. They get 1 or 2 ideas. All that adds up. It all counts, and it makes a difference because everything counts.
Everything counts. Absolutely. So this podcast is called The Intentional Entrepreneur. And when I first met you, I set the intention to improve my sales skills. But before I kind of went down this journey, I was probably your kind of traditional lawyer, like, hey, people are just going to come to me. I'm going to open my doors. I'm a lawyer, right? People are just going to be naturally attracted to me. But one of the things that you helped me realize is like, everybody's a salesman, whether you are in business or not, right? If I'm sitting across from a potential client, I have to improve my closing skills, my sales skills to sign them on as a client. I have to close my kids to take a bath. I have to close my kids to eat their vegetables. Mm-hmm. And can you share a little bit about people who struggle with, sales is icky. I don't want to be in sales.
Yeah. Well, it really has to do with how you look at it, right? And so one of the great all-time sayings out there is, things only have the meaning that we give them. So we can make sales be arm twisting, high pressure, manipulation, which that's actually how our culture programs us to think. And if any of you are watching this, if you have resistance to sales, it's not your fault, because there's a stigma to sales in our culture. However, you don't have to look at it like that. And I have a broader definition of sales, and it's in line with what you just said. Selling is a style of communication that increases the likelihood that the other person says yes. So it's really this simple. Do you want to get more yeses in your life?
Mm.
You go, well, Eric, what area of my life? Any area, right? From your neighbor to your community, to your kids, your spouse or significant other, your business partner. If you're hiring people and you're going to offer them a job or offer them a contract work, you want them to say yes. You want to get a new client, you want them to say yes. You want them to continue to do business with you, you want them to say yes. And so there are principles that anybody can learn.
Mm.
So if you say, yeah, I want more yeses, then you would want to learn sales. And so I'm one of, a group of people out there. This is what we do for a living. we
Right.
teach people predictable ways to get more yeses, and how you sequence a presentation, which is what I was talking about in Sales Mountain,
Mm-hmm.
that influences the yes. In the Starbucks example with Barnes & Noble, basically Starbucks is piggybacking on Barnes & Noble's customers. So
Mm-hmm.
they're able to leverage the relationship that those customers already have with Barnes & Noble. That's why joint ventures are so powerful. So there's all these things that we can do. Anybody can do. Anybody can learn how to get more yeses. And so with that broader view and letting go of resistance to sales, it's going to create a happier, more fulfilling life for anybody that does choose to learn how to get more yeses.
Right. And talking about Sales Mountain, you've created this teaching methodology and a way of explaining the sales process. But I know a lot of people who aren't as experienced or maybe getting their first time into sales, they kind of go straight to the ask. And you give this analogy of kind of what not to do, go into the restaurant or go into the relationships and marriage. Can you share a little those two analogies that you shared with us before, what sales is, what it should not be like?
Yeah. So people do, either they go straight for the yes, or Dan, they do the opposite. And they keep meeting with the prospect and they never ask them to move forward out of fear of rejection. And so this is really a conversation about sequencing.
Mm-hmm.
And sequencing is one of the 5 most important words in sales, the order that the presentation goes in. So when I met my wife, at the end of the first date, I didn't say to her, wow, I had an amazing time. I'm looking for somebody to move in with me. Would you like to move in with me, right? Now, she has children. I have children. This is my second wife. I didn't say to her at the end of the first date, hey, you want to come meet my kids? Because the next step at the end of the first date is, hey, I had a really great time. Would you like to go out again? Right? So we did that for a while. And of course, we're married now, and eventually I met her kids and vice versa. But it's the sequence that it goes in. And so it's very important that you think about this next meeting you're going to have with somebody over the phone, over technology like this, face-to-face, and think about what is the next step. And I call that stage selling. Mm-hmm. Stage selling means sell to the next stage. And that's all you have to do. And it really takes the pressure off, because when I sell, I just sell to the next step. Like if I want to connect with somebody on Facebook, all I'm trying to do is get them to hit the accept a friend request button. That's all I want to do. And then from there, I just start a little dialogue. And then from there, and I just keep taking them to the next step, and then eventually acquiring them as a client. And so this is a very important consideration in improving your sales skills, is just simply think to yourself, what is the next step?
Absolutely. And I've used that idea over and over again when people reaching out to me, let's try to get on a call. Let's try to get, back then it was in-person meeting, and not merely just kind of get to, buy from me right now. One of the gold mines I got from you and from Sales Mountain was Followup. And kind of to expand that idea was, people, everyone's busy. And it's not so much that they don't want to do business with you, but sometimes life gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share a little bit about maybe some long-term follow-up stories that you've gone on maybe for years until you've actually landed the client that you want?
Yeah, well, I have a couple different
Yeah.
examples that
Yeah.
come to mind, and you make a great point. It's like if I follow up with somebody and let's say they ignore me, they don't even return my phone call. It doesn't mean they're not interested. It's just I'm not the number one thing in their life.
Right, right.
In my case, I'm offering them sales training, and they got all this other stuff going on, and maybe they're really interested in doing business, but just I'm not at the top of their list. And so one story that comes to mind is I prospected this referral. It was for a speaking engagement, and they had an expected attendance of 1,000 people, which is, for me, that's a really big speech. That's attractive to me to go and speak in front of 1,000 people. So I contacted this person. I said, hey, I was referred to you. I heard you had a speech coming up. I'd like to be one of the speakers. And he didn't call me back. And I called him 8 times. And my philosophy is follow up, follow up, follow up until they buy or die. Take the sale to a conclusion of a yes or a no. And this was a really big opportunity to speak to 1,000 people. And he answered the phone on the 8th call. And I left him a bunch of messages. My heart started beating really fast. It's like, what's he going to say? Like, didn't you get the hint? I didn't call you back because I'm not interested. I thought maybe he was going to blast me, right? And anyway, I ended up closing that deal. And I spoke and I did $25,000 in business at that event that I never would have had I not applied the philosophy of follow up till they buy or die, take the sale to a conclusion of a yes or a no. And another example is I wanted an endorsement from my marketing mentor, Jay Abraham. He's a very well-known marketing expert for any of you that are watching that are into marketing. And I wanted him to endorse me as a sales trainer. And so I approached him 3 years ago and I asked him for an endorsement, and he didn't say yes, but he didn't say no. And I really wanted the endorsement. So about 6 months later, I followed up with him again, and he didn't say yes and he didn't say no. And I followed up with him for 3 years and he didn't say yes and he didn't say no. And finally I got the endorsement. I got it just a couple of months ago, and I never would have got it if, number one, I didn't set the intention that I was going to get it. Number two, I didn't have it as a goal. And if I had just said, well, look, I've been following up for 2 years. Okay, I guess it's not going to happen. I held the belief in my mind, either he was going to give me the endorsement, or he was going to die, or I was going to die, or he was going to just tell me point blank, look, Eric, I'm not going to do this. But if he doesn't tell me I'm not going to do this, like firmly, I'm going to keep trying. And I got it. And I never would have got it had I not had that mindset and not had that follow through. I call it the $50,000 idea. If you're watching this right now, if you will be that committed to your success and you'll follow up following those 2 stories I just gave you, I believe it'll bring an extra $50,000 in increased income or commissions between now and the end of your career.
Absolutely. It's, I would say, at least hundreds of thousands of dollars for me, just awesome. Following up and follow up until they buy or die or unsubscribe, no matter which circles you're in. So going back to this, the sphere of influence, this is one of the most powerful ideas you have. And I know you talked a little bit about it on on this past week's Platinum Protege call, but can you talk a little bit as to the mindset? Because I think for some people, yes, they want to tap into someone who has a high influence over a large group of people. But aside from, yes, we can do fee splits with those people. But if they're not in the position to, how can I give value to that particular person of influence?
Yeah, well, it's really entering their world, and it's viewing their experience, their experience from their perspective. And so in selling, if I want to sell to somebody, I want to step into their shoes and look at how are they going to benefit by buying my product or service. Well, we want to have that mindset when we're building a joint venture or collaborative relationship. So go back to the Starbucks example. Starbucks essentially said to Barnes & Noble, look, put us in the corner where you don't have a lot of traffic, and we'll make that more profitable for you. That was their value proposition.
Mm.
So you have to think of a value proposition. And one great value proposition is called a reciprocal referral relationship. So it's a real estate agent and an insurance person. And the realtor goes to the insurance person and says, I'll refer you if you refer me. And they set up a reciprocal referral relationship. Values exchange there. That's very logical. Or you mentioned like a fee structure, a referral fee.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you refer me, then I'll give you a percentage. Another way is just to ask as a favor. So when I get my next book and I want to really get the word out, I'm going to call in a bunch of favors. I'm like, hey, can you do me a favor? My book's coming out. Can you help me get the word out? And I won't, in many cases, I won't be offering a reciprocal. I'll just say, hey, can you do this as a favor? And there's all kinds of ways to create value for somebody. So you just enter their world, view their experience from their perspective, and maybe just ask them, hey, I would love it if you would promote me or refer me to your network. Is there anything that I could do for you where you would be excited about doing that for me? So those are, you know, a couple of different examples.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that script down to make sure, because I think that's totally on point. Okay, we're kind of at the end here, and so I'm gonna go into the rapid fire question and answer part.
Okay.
And so just answer the first thing that pops in your head.
Okay.
All right. Who do you look up to?
I look up to a number of business mentors, Dr. Moyne, who's my personal mentor, Michael Gerber, Tony Robbins, of course, you know, world famous speakers and authors. I look up to my pastor, Ray Johnston. I have tremendous admiration and respect for Ray.
What's the best business book you've ever read?
Probably E-Myth. The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. It's all a book about systems.
Right. The best business advice you've ever received?
Best business advice is to have mentors, find people that have answers to questions you have, things that you don't know the answer to. So have mentors.
And you lose everything. You only have your computer, your cell phone, and an internet connection. How do you build your business back in 30 days?
I would do the POI strategy. I would go to, because I rely on my database. Well, I can go to someone else's database, and if they promote me, I can literally I can pick clients up like that. So I would leverage other people's networks, and I would be back in a place of success very quickly.
Fantastic. And if you can do one thing over again, what would it be?
I would have gone in and done corporate training sooner. So my company for years has been focused mostly on the end user, the actual salesperson, versus training sales teams. And so that's one of our pivots in my company right now, is working with sales teams. And I would have done that sooner.
All right. And finally, what's the number one challenge in your business today?
Number one challenge, I'm in a big growth expansion. And it's not about me producing, it's about my team producing. So it's building up the infrastructure for the growth. It's getting more leads for the growth. It's training the team. It's really about, it's me putting on a different hat. It's me expanding in my leadership skills.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much, Eric Lofholm with Eric Lofholm International, Master Sales Trainer. If we want to learn more about you, about what you offer and your trainings, where can we go?
Best thing to do is Google me. I'm the only Eric Lofholm on the planet. I'm on almost all the social media platforms, Facebook. And if you're on Facebook, find me there. If you're on YouTube, find my YouTube channel. If you're on Twitter, find me on Twitter. LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. And my main website is saleschampion.com.
All right, we'll put that link in the show notes. Thank you again, Eric Lofholm, for spending some time with us, and hope you're staying safe up in Northern California, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Dan.
My pleasure.